Jeff, when you kind of envision the ideal safety for your defense, how close is Xavier McKinney to fitting that description?
No, it's funny you guys asked me about that before we signed him, right? The last time I was here. One, I'll just say it's been so nice to have X. What a pro. I mean, how hard he works, the communication, the way he is in the meeting rooms, the way he looks out for the younger guys. I mean, that's the stuff you don't see. I mean, all the stuff I explained to you in my first meeting, yeah, we think he can do all those things, and he's shown that he can. But the coolest part about him is, and I told him this the other day, is you don't find out really about somebody and who they are and how hard they work until they get here. And that's been the thing that's made probably us the happiest. Great pro, great attitude, great effort. He's done a great job so far. So really excited to have him here, continue to have him grow in the scheme and really understand the scheme. And again, I think it's our job to put him in position to make a lot of things happen. So it's been fun to kind of see everything that he can do and how quickly he can learn. And I'm really glad we have him.
Positions evolve. Linebackers it's more of a space position than it used to be. But how do you stop the inside run with two linebackers who are built like Cooper and Walker?
Well, they're pretty big guys. I mean, they're 230 plus pounds. I mean, the day of playing with 255-pound linebackers, I'm not sure there's many of them left. I mean, we got big backers. I'm not worried about those guys, Quay or McDuff or any of those guys stopping the run. You got to be able to run. You got to be able to shrink the field. And then those guys, Coach Camp's doing a great job teaching them how to use their hands, where to put their eyes, and how to play the run. But they're plenty big. And I'm really excited about that. I'm excited about all the guys we have in that room. You know, I know we want to talk about the draft picks right now, but the guys that we have coming back, and Wilson and Duff and Quay, I mean, I'm really pleased with those guys right now. And now there's great competition, which I think is the key to everything. But those guys got good size.
Miko Ryan's done at the owners' meetings about the emphasis that defense puts on coverage for linebackers. He said they have to do that a lot, probably more than in other defenses. What do you gain out of that? Why do you like to have your defense built around where your linebackers have a lot of coverage responsibilities?
I'm not sure if it's just the coverage. It's the speed and the athleticism and the ability to play in space. I mean, if you look right now, I mean, just look at the first round. Look at how many guys were drafted to catch the ball and run or to play in space and score fast. I mean, we need guys that can run and shrink the field. And there's certain ways to do that, right? You get guys who have really good length and they can play the game this way. And then you have guys that can fly, and we're fortunate to have a couple guys that have length and can run. But this is a game that there's so much speed on the offensive side of the ball that, you know, whether we're playing a vision and break zone or a man coverage, you have to be able to run right now. And I'm sure D'Amico, if you look at who he's got and the linebackers and the safeties, it's very similar. I mean, all those guys can run and hit. And for us, it's also about play style. And that's why I think we went out and got guys, both in free agency and in the draft, that we're going to like the way they play when we turn on the tape. They love football, and they're going to run and hit.
When you have two of those guys at linebacker with that kind of length and athleticism, from a creativity, schematic standpoint, how many doors does that open for you?
Well, I think we're going to do what we do. You know, we're going to play a variety of coverage and figure out what they can do best. You got to be careful. I mean, we can't try to do too much where we don't do anything fast. I mean, our philosophy is get really good at what we do and do it over and over again. So we're playing 100 miles per hour. If you try to do too much, you slow them down. So that's definitely not what we want to do. But because they are versatile, we can put them in different areas and kind of plug and play within the scheme. And I know Quay, just being around him, he can rush off the edge. He can blitz on the inside. He can run games, and he can play linebacker. And he has man coverage ability, so he gives you a lot of versatility in that regard.
And then obviously Edgerrin shown in college that he can get after the passer too from that position. Do you, when you've got guys that are capable of that off the ball, do you bake that into your scheme? Like, okay, we can use this in the pass rushing, or do you just kind of go off what they can do?
Those guys can both rush off the edge, or they can both blitz, or they can run games, and they have 3-down value, and you can put them in on 3rd down and mug them up, or put them off the edge, or try to get the offensive line to go one-on-one and create a mismatch with them and their speed. Then we have to do it. You know, I've seen what Quay can do a little bit more than I've seen what Coop can do right now live. I'm excited to get Coop back here and really have Coach Camp teach him and really get our hands on him. But I like what he did at rookie minicamp. He came in with a great attitude. He showed his athletic ability. I mean, he's a great-looking kid, and, you know, I'm glad we have him. Just with all those rookies right now, I mean, if you think about them, we brought them in on a Thursday. We practiced Friday and Saturday, and now they're back, you know, and they'll be here again next week. So we just kind of saw a small piece of that, but I'm really excited to get him back.
Javon mentioned you actually were part of the contingent that was recruiting him out of high school. I just wonder what you remember about him back then, and just kind of the prospect that he, you know, became now.
Well, I recruited a lot of guys, so just loved his tape, loved the way he played, loved the play style, loved the versatility. He's a physical guy. He can run, he can cover, he can play deep, he can play in the slot, he can blitz, and he's bigger when you see him. You guys have you seen him? Did you see him yet? He's thick, strong, and then the best part about it is, and I kind of said the same thing about X, is you don't really know what you're getting until you get in the meeting room with him. I mean, he's a sharp guy. I mean, his ability to learn and process in those 2 days was impressive. And you get a guy who can play that fast and, you know, can take what he learned in the meeting room and bring it out to the field, and he's got a chance. So, again, a small little glimpse of what we're, you know, going to get when they get here, but excited to have him.
A guy like King in the 7th round, when maybe some people thought he would have been or should have been taken a lot higher. What do you think you got there?
Really good football player, has really good instincts. You know, he played on the inside, he played on the outside. He's a physical guy. He'll tackle. From watching his tape in college, I thought he made a ton of plays with those instincts. He can play the ball down the field. I love the way he runs and hits. Really not sure why he fell to when he did. But, you know, you have conversations with guys like that. At this point, it doesn't matter where you were drafted anymore. It's what are you going to do now going forward? And he's got an opportunity here to do that. And again, in the little that we saw of him this weekend, really, really glad he's here. And you could see he's probably got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder coming in, but eventually you're here. Get over the fact of where you were drafted and go make the most of what's ahead.
History with a guy who, I mean, I'm sure everybody thinks they should have been picked higher, but a guy that maybe was that much different. Do you have think of a guy that you worked with in the past that really kind of was like that and took off from there?
Yeah, one of the best I ever was around was K'Wan Williams, who was a starting nickel for us in Cleveland. We took him as a tryout guy, and he started over a first-round pick, and then he came with me to San Francisco, and then he stayed there, and then he was at Denver. But, I mean, again, you get an opportunity in this league, and you make the most of it. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter when you were picked, but there's plenty of stories like that, and he's just one that was in kind of a similar role position-wise. I'm not comparing him to K'Wan. I haven't seen him enough yet. I think K'Wan's one of the best to play that position in a system like this, but he's the first one that comes to mind.
Wonder, do you have any, I realize that it's May 6th, but do you have any feel for the corners other than Jair, what the talent, the depth that you have at that position?
Yeah, I mean, just from watching, we're in phase 2 now, so we're on the field doing some individual work. I think DA, Coach Hansley's done a really nice job with those guys. Obviously mentioning Ja, I mean, he's been another one of those guys, attentive. He's here. He's working really hard. He's been great in the classroom. His drill work's been outstanding. You know, I think Stokes is a guy that, you know, I've seen him play, seen the film, seen the speed. He's been impressive so far. Valentine's done a really nice job. I think all those guys. Keyshawn's done a good job. Those are good football players. And right now, I'll say this: the whole defense. I mean, the three things we ask: the attitude, the effort, and the commitment. And that's what they can control that, and they've done a really good job there. The effort's been outstanding on the field, the commitment to the team and to each other. I mean, there's a ton of energy out there. I think Coach LaFleur has done a great job. There's a really good vibe right now, and I think that's a great starting point, and we're just installing our defense, and we have a long way to go, but you can't ask for anything else. The way these guys have attacked it and how hard they've worked, and that's one group that it's fun to watch right now, and we'll see. Again, I think the competition is so important, right? It's going to bring out the best in those guys, and they're going to get coached really well. You'll get a chance to talk to Coach Ansley this week, I believe. I mean, he's done a great job with those guys, really has.
Boring process question, but we haven't talked to you in like 3 months. I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
it's been that long?
Yeah, I think he just moved
I
into
haven't
Lodge
been here
Kohler
for
at the
3
time.
months, yeah. I'm out of Lodge Kohler. I'm out. I kind of miss certain aspects of it, but my family's here, so I'd rather have that.
So, you've been here, I think, 2 weeks when we talked to you at first, and now here we are in May. You've got the guys back in phase 2. How do you install a defense? How do you get all the coaches on the same page? How do you get ready to teach the players it? And then what's next once you got them in OTAs and you start to actually be able to do it on the field?
I could probably spend a half hour explaining that to you, but I don't think everybody else would be too happy with me or you if I spend on that question. But I appreciate that question. One, we had the staff here, so we sat down and we kind of looked at our vision of what we wanted this defense to be. And then you decide what you want to install early and see how much we can get in the short time that we have. And then you look at all the meeting time that we've been able to get with these guys, and you have a lot of time in the classroom. So we just kind of mapped out our installation. We detailed the fundamentals and techniques of the coverages that we want to play first, and we're doing a lot of, we're kind of going from part to whole, right? We're teaching certain drops, we're teaching certain coverages, and then we're kind of showing them how they can plug and play and become a whole bunch of different coverages. So we're kind of stressing the fundamentals of the techniques within the coverages, because without those, I don't think you can be good at anything. And there's other things like attacking the ball, and we want to do the little things right. And then with that, when we feel like we have a good foundation, because without a good foundation, you have no chance, we're trying to build that, and then we're adding to the coverages. And then I think ultimately for us is, let's see how much we can get in and get really good, and let's not rush, right? Let's get really good at a few things, and let's install them and do them over and over again. And then we'll see where we're at the end of this thing and go into training camp and seeing what else we need. But I think for us too, it's getting a feel for the players that we have live. Now we got free agencies done and we added some additions, and then you get the draft picks and you see what they have, and let's kind of see who fits where, and then see how much we need or where we feel comfortable. I think we're in a great place right now, and that's a credit to the staff. But we've got a good amount of time with these guys to teach it in the classroom, walk through it, and then go on the field and do a little bit before we get to phase 3 and we get to practice.
Slayton, he's played in a 3-4. He's kind of got prototypical size for that 3-4 nose. Had a really good season last year. How do you make sure that translates to a 4-3, especially when a lot of the snaps might come when you are in that base?
Yeah, I mean, I think he can play nose. You put him in a 0 in a 3-4. You put him in a shade, or you put him in a, put him inside leverage of a guard, and he's still right around that A gap. There's things we can do with him. We can tighten him up and get into some 3-4 spacing. We can just play him at the nose position, but he's been another guy. I mean, that whole D-line, if you guys were out at practice and you could hear and feel that energy, I think Rebs and VO, I mean, that group's humming, and they're getting off the ball, and they're playing fast, and that group has to attack. That's not going to be a passive read and react. And no, they're going to go, and they're going to get off the ball. And before we break every meeting and I dismiss them and talk to the back end, I tell them to go get after the quarterback. And that's what they're going to do. And then you get a big guy like that against the run. I mean, that nose has to be he has to be a guy that makes it really hard to run the football. And he's got the size and he's got the body to do that. Now we got to coach him up and make sure we get the most out of him. But he's done a nice job so far.
Do you, I stumbled across the Viper position when I was online.
I don't have a Viper. If you,
Because it made it sound like at BC you might have.
I've never had a Viper position. Maybe some people in the scheme call the strong safety the nickel Viper, but shoot, maybe one day we will. But I got no Viper for you right now.
With young players, how do you strike that balance between maximizing the versatility that they have and also making sure that they become really comfortable in one or two areas?
Fundamentals and technique, like that, and I guess I was trying to answer your question. Like, there's nothing more important than fundamentals and technique, and that's whether it's the D-line getting off the ball and working on their stance and starts, or whether it's the guy learning how to play man-to-man or zone drop and where to put his eyes and what to do and how to react when certain things happen. Tackling, attacking the football, like the things that are going to be most important in our game, taking on a block, where to put their eyes, getting off the block. Like, those are the things that you got to teach these guys, because without that, you can't play, right? And that's whether you're hitting a sled or you're tackling a bag. I mean, you can't take those things for granted. You know, we want to, you know, diagram all these blitzes and all these coverages, which we all can do, but if we're not playing fast and physical and getting off blocks and tackling, then none of that matters. So that's what we're going to teach them right now. And then you start to insert them where we feel they fit, right? And then we got a pretty good defense, because it's still about the players. It's not about the scheme right now. It's about the players. It's about our job maximizing their ability, which I talked to you guys about when I first got here. And now that we see what we have, now we got to make sure we do that. And that's why you love coming to work every day right now. I mean, it's just, I mean, for me, it's just football again. And these guys are so bought in. And like I said, give Coach LaFleur and these guys credit. I mean, this team is driven right now. And that's not saying we're going to do this or we're going to do that down the road, but you got a chance. You come in and you're doing what these players are doing every day, you got a chance. So I'm fired up about that.
Those fundamentals and techniques, are they a lot different than what the existing guys would have been playing in the last system? Like, a bunch of us were here in '09 when they went from a 4-3 to Dom Capers and the 3-4. And I know with how much of a nickel league this is, that there's not that much variance for a lot of the schematic stuff. But, you know, the coverages you're going to play, you know, you've talked a lot about having vision. And, I mean, are those techniques and fundamentals different than maybe what these guys, are they learning a lot of new stuff?
At some positions they are, and some have done them in college, so a lot's coming back to them. Some have done them at other stops and other systems they've played in the NFL. You know, for the D-line, they're going to be asked to do some different things than they would playing in 3-4 spacing. Some are going to have their hand down on the ground more. But when it comes to getting off blocks and tackling, and I mean, those guys have all done that. It's just sharpening it, making it better. But there's certainly some things in coverage that are going to be new, and that's what we're trying to spend the most amount of time on now, so they get a good understanding. And I think that all is going to be a process, and our job is, as we go, just keep getting better and faster and get better at it and get faster at it, because they have to be comfortable, and that's the whole key, right? Like I talk about, I want a defense that's going to be confident, and it's not going to be like nervous about making mistakes. And I want play style is important to me, and how fast we play and physical and attacking the ball and all that stuff. But the only way to do that is they got to know what they're doing, right? So you teach all those things we talked about, then you learn the scheme, and then you let them go play. So there's some things that are new. But the cool part is right now they're all buying in and really focusing on learning it. And that's what gives us a chance each day when we come in. So you give those guys credit for that.